and let me welcome everybody joining us today at 7 a.m. or some people in different time zones for our event on facilitating transboundary water cooperation through data and information exchange. I know some of you have joined us for our event last year at the Dushanbe Water Conference, but also for some of the events at the Stockholm World Water Week. And particularly last year at the Dushanbe Water Conference, we also had organized a session on digitalization and the water sector. So I'm happy that we can continue this topic. And today, we have a very nice panel, and we have a good presentation from our colleagues at IUCN, from Mr. Diego Yara, who will present the toolkit on facilitation of water cooperation through data and information exchange that they have prepared in partnership with us. So without further ado, let us proceed with the welcoming remarks, and I would like to ask our Deputy Coordinator of Environmental Activities at OSCE at the Office of the Coordinator of Economic and Environmental Activities, Ms. Sylvie Goyer, to give us some welcoming remarks. Dear Sylvie, the screen is yours. Sylvie? I'm sorry. Do we have Sylvie with us? I
don't see her anymore.
I don't. Oh, okay. No, she is.
Yeah.
Dear Sylvie, the screen is yours for the welcoming remarks. You are muted. You are muted.
Thanks a lot, Sauli. I got disconnected just for a minute, probably too early for my computer as well.
That's all right, please.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Can you hear me well? Yes.
We can hear you.
We can. Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's a real pleasure for me to address you today during this online session on facilitating transboundary water cooperation through data and information exchange that we're co-organizing as part of this year's Stockholm World Water Week, currently ongoing in Stockholm and online. Before I go any further, I would like to thank our partners, Stockholm International Water Institute, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, the Geneva Water Hub, and the Central Asia Youth for Water Network for the excellent cooperation in the field of water diplomacy that we enjoy, welcoming as well representatives from Finland and Switzerland. Thank you, and thank you for making it this early. I hope you have good coffee. For OSCE, water has always been a major factor in local, regional, and global security. Let me highlight a few trends. Today, global population and water usage continue to grow against a finite world water supply. Second, access to clean water remains inconsistent and unequal across the globe. And finally, climate change, as you know, exacerbates existing pressures and presents new challenges. We live it every day. From the OSCE's comprehensive security perspective, we have then much to contribute on this topic. Water management has been and continues to be a top priority for the OSCE. This is particularly important in light of the challenges faced by many national and transnational basins that support and sustain communities. We know that strengthening and enhancing cooperation in transboundary basins promotes stability, security, sustainable development, and peace. The organization that I have the pleasure to work with has a strong mandate in this field, which dates back to the 1975 Helsinki Final Act, establishing the organization, and continues with a number of ministerial council decisions and declarations that have instructed us and shaped our work. In particular, let me quote the 2007 Madrid Declaration on Environment and Security. This frame OSCE's role in promoting collaboration mechanisms related to the use and the protection of water resources, all of the efforts with the aim to enhance cooperation and diffuse conflicts. Based on this mandate, the organization has been actively engaged in translating these decisions into concrete action through a number of projects and programs at the national level, as well as in a transboundary context in Southeastern Europe, Eastern Europe, South Caucasus, and Central Asia. Advancing digitalization in the water sector contributes to enhance transparency and accountability in water management, strengthen water governance and cooperation. Thus, digital and online platforms of dialogue can also provide unique capacity building opportunities for key stakeholders working on transboundary water management. It allows enhancing the knowledge, skills, and networking opportunities to effectively engage and participate in water negotiation and conflict prevention processes. As part of our work on water diplomacy and transboundary water cooperation, the OSCE has implemented a number of innovative activities. We've been partnering with the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, to explore the application of digital tools in transboundary water cooperation. Last year, IUCN developed the Data and Information Exchange Toolkit, and the OSCE is very proud to introduce it at today's event. Our IUCN colleagues are joining us today. Thank you, very good to have you with us. The OSCE activities in the field of water management contribute to the achievement of several of the Sustainable Development Goals, in particular SDG 6 on clean water and sanitation. We shall continue our activities in close partnership with our international partners, as well as our field operations. I'm very confident that today's session on facilitating transboundary water cooperation through data and information exchange will enable us to learn from the experiences of our valuable speakers and to discuss how we can further advance our efforts in the field of digitalization in water governance. Finally, I would like to express my gratitude to all donors and partners who have been providing their financial support to our activities in sustainable water management and water diplomacy over time and today, acknowledging as well representatives from Switzerland and Finland. Thank you very much. I wish you all of us and you a very productive discussion today, a very early discussion today. Hope it's going to kick the day in a good mood and look forward to strengthening our cooperation on these issues in the coming years. Thank you very much.
Dear Sylvie, thank you very much. And, piggybacking on your last few sentences, I would like to pass the screen to Mr. Simon Binden from Swiss Development Agency, Development and Cooperation. Simon is the head of the Global Program Water Division at the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, a unit of the Swiss Federal Department of Foreign Affairs. Simon has held several positions within SDC, both at headquarters and in field offices, all related to natural resources management. Simon has a master's science degree in resource economics from Cornell University. And I would like to say that it was, in fact, we're very grateful for their support, for SDC's support, for Swiss support. Swiss support enabled the start of the project on water diplomacy, OEC project on water diplomacy, and specifically this component on digitalization and water, which we are very excited to continue, was enabled with their support. Dear Simon, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Sol, and thank you, Sylvie, for these words. I actually would not have anything to add to Sylvie's superb speech, but I do it anyhow. So good morning to all of you, and really thank you for joining. I think that you're here at 7 a.m. in the morning, at least those in the Central European time zone, is a firm a testimony that you are interested in that topic, and it's a pleasure. First of all, I would like on behalf of SDC, the Swiss Agency for Development Cooperation, congratulate IUCN and also OC for this seminal work, this toolkit, which is absolutely right on time. And I would like to start just with a tiny little anecdote on the Rhine. I was 13 years old. It was in 1986 when in Basel there was at that time there was still today, it's a chemical industry.
Simon, we lost you for a second.
And then at that time, the prevention far behind, not in smoke was all over. Okay, can you hear me?
There is slight disruption, but we can hear you. We can hear you now.
Okay, maybe the connection is not that good. So there was this fire, and then the firefighters were there, and they were fighting the fire, of course, and all this water contaminated with chemicals flew into the Rhine, and essentially turned that the Rhine was completely dead. And you might know the Rhine is a river that is shared by Switzerland, Austria, Liechtenstein, Germany, even France, tributaries, and then Belgium and the Netherlands. And so this water contaminated actually wiped out all life in the Rhine. And I remember as a 13-year-old teenager that Swiss authorities were accused, and rightly accused, that there were no information at all to the countries downstream. And that actually was the trigger that there was later on were set up more commissions and more systems to exchange information, and that showed to me how important information is. And I think it was said during the conference, you can only manage what you know, and that's why it's so important to have data and information on waters. You cannot cooperate across borders without knowing what you have on the table or in your rivers. And it's really also the moment where there is momentum in the system, and I think technology is a driver, digitalization. Marginal prices of sensing, of gathering data are coming down. It's getting cheap. And there is technology, remote sensing. It's today possible. You can really quickly in time, you can monitor your environment, and that helps definitively to exchange more and more data. However, there is still the human element, and I refer to, of course, the capacities we need to collect this data, analyze the data, and then also prepare it for the data to be shared. And we should not forget also the political dimension of information. Information is not neutral. In many contexts, information is highly sensitive, and it's also a matter of trust and good faith. So all this comes together, and I'm super happy to have this toolkit now on our tables that could inspire us wherever we work in the transboundary water management world. And with these words, I would like to once again thank the organizers for this session, or this side session during the World Water Week, and for the launch of this seminal work on data and information sharing. So thank you to all of you, and have a good session. Back to you, Sol. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. Actually, I would also highlight, the issue of importance of data management, particularly in the current, security context, and for organization like OSCE, for us, it's particularly important, in this nexus of environment and security, where the issues of good governance, play a large role, and we particularly focus on that, on those aspects of these issues. So with that, actually, I would like to pass the screen to Mr. Antti Rautavaara, who will help us set the scene for digitalization in the water sector. Antti is a special envoy for water at the Center for Peace Mediation at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Finland. In that role, he is an advocate of Finnish waterway strategy, which is a unique platform housed at the political department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, uniting Finnish water society to work together with national and international partners towards a water-secure world. Antti holds strong experience of international water affairs and political peace mediation, development, and humanitarian context. He held a number of positions over the years at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He has been senior advisor for Director General for Development and for several years a senior water advisor. He has also been assigned to work as Director of International Water Affairs at the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry. He holds a Master of Science from Aalto University and a certificate from the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm. Dear Antti, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Saula and other colleagues. I hope you can hear me at least.
We can hear you.
Some trouble with cameras which I can't resolve, but you just have to believe me that I'm not sitting in a pitch dark, room here in Stockholm. So first of all, thank you very much to inviting us to speak. And I start from the sort of little bit of a Finnish positions, and we really do promote the rules-based international order in transboundary water cooperation, because we see that that's one part of the rules-based system that we have in place. So we pursue to preserve the OSCE as a platform for discussions on security and cooperation in Europe, and we are prepared to chair the OSCE in 2025. We consider the role of the chair in OSCE very important for functionality and political leadership of the organization. In one way, we also are a global forerunner in digitalization with solutions ranging from Internet of Things and big data to artificial intelligence. And we have invested over the years in innovative technologies in water sector for monitoring and forecasting, including such technologies as remote sensing and satellite imagery and real-time monitoring systems. So we see that by integrating such data from various sources, including the weather data, the sensor networks and consumption patterns, water utilities, we can optimize water supply and identify inefficiencies in hydropower production and make informed decisions for sustainable water management. So now when today our topic is specifically on that transboundary water cooperation through data and information exchange, really trying to little bit set the scene where we stand. So in transboundary water cooperation, that rules-based international order materializes for countries through water conventions. So if we look at the UNECE Water Convention, there are clear requirements for the parties to comply with. We have the article number 4, which requires to establish programs for monitoring conditions of transboundary waters. And in Article 6, parties are required to provide the widest exchange of information as early as possible. All the produced information is then of utmost importance for entire transboundary basin, but it also serves the global policy processes through the SDG 6 monitoring. The latest development at that front was the publication of SDG 6 synthesis report for the use at the high-level political forum, which was just right now in July. The synthesis report, which was prepared, lays out a blueprint on putting the SDG 6 back on track. And it gives 5 topics, which include data and information, innovation, and governance. So, 3 out of the 5 topics of that report are also coming nicely together in this session. The report notes that the water domain has a very fragmented data, and information has significant data gaps, and quality of data is not always assured. For us who work with the transboundary water cooperation and management, we know that in our work, it holds true very well. Secondly, the report provides guidance for utilization of data sources and new types of data, also from private and citizen sources. So importantly, takes also note of inclusivity and disaggregation of data and information. So there is a very strong human rights angle as well. The report makes a clear call for governments to take advantage of new innovations and technologies. We have mentioned already some, but mobile phones and those satellites and the AI. So what type of benefits then we can have in this context? So in transboundary settings, the trust element is of utmost importance, and it can be built with data generation, with regular joint sampling, intercalibration of analysis laboratories and validation processes, standardization and information exchanges between the riparian countries. Digitalization with new innovations and technologies then are opportunities for us to build that trust and transparency between the countries sharing a joint basin. So digitalization also enables rapid assessments and early warning of the impacts of accidents. Let it be floods, droughts, chemical spills, whatever. And this we unfortunately witnessed earlier this year at Kakhovka, which was unacceptable action against human, water, and environmental security. Digitalization also enables informed decision-making for the development and implementation of the water plans, including the remediation actions needed. In Finland, National Watershed Forecasting System utilizes digital information that we receive from our neighboring countries, and that allows us to model and forecast existing and possible changes in our water resources within our own boundaries, and in turn share our forecasts with our neighbors so that the data exchange benefits on both sides, and we can also optimize on both sides of the water use. Digital automation with varying applications and data products are changing the paths to transboundary water cooperation now. And not just that, but also this affects the geopolitics at and around the said water bodies. We're actually running another session series, and one session is this afternoon, or the last session of the three. So while we need to actively look at the technological and digital innovations, we need to also remember that social and economic innovations are equally important. So not just the technological side, but we need the social and economic side involved as well. So with that, thank you very much, and hopefully this session can also dive into some solutions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Auntie, for providing us this broad strokes and also highlighting some of the issues and challenges and opportunities for this for the issue of digitalization in the water sector. And thank you for also bringing the example of Kakhovka, because particularly for us, our colleagues and we are ourselves involved in projects and initiatives with the Ukrainian government to address the aftermath of Kakhovka Dam disaster. So without further ado, simply for the since we have a very tight time frame, let me pass the screen to Mr. Diego Yara, who will make a presentation of Data and Information Exchange Toolkit developed by IUCN. Diego Yara is a legal officer at the IUCN Environmental Law Center. He's been involved in policy, legal, and institutional processes for the promotion of transboundary water cooperation in Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia. His research interests focus on international environmental law, sustainable development, and water diplomacy. Diego holds a law degree from the Catholic University of Ecuador, as well as a postgraduate degree in environmental governance from the University of Freiburg, Germany. Dear Diego, the screen is yours. Yes, everything shows up well. Diego, please.
Many thanks, Ole. Dear colleagues, many thanks for the invitation to be part of this session on data and information exchange. It is a pleasure for me, for IUCN, to be providing some inputs some reflections as well from the work that IUCN has been doing for the past decades on the area of water diplomacy, cooperation, governance, and international water law. Many thanks to OSCE for having this initiative, for being the promoters of bringing these ideas of innovation, exchange of data and information in the field of water diplomacy as well. The same, many thanks to SDC for providing the frame under the Blue Peace initiative to discuss these ideas and hopefully to improve the management and governance of transboundary waters worldwide. And actually, this toolkit, the Data and Information Exchange Toolkit, is born under this idea of being the first inputs, the first reflections on how to improve transboundary water cooperation based on good data and information to be applied, hopefully, as part of a whole program of work. This is just the first document, the first instrument that brings these inputs. But of course, this will need to be discussed. This will need to be socialized. This will need to be applied in specific basins, hopefully in the future. Just to provide you an overview of what this toolkit contains, the content of this toolkit, as I mentioned, it is the first instrument, the first document that was produced under this collaboration with OSCE to introduce some of the concepts, definitions, approaches, practices on data and information exchange. Will be the first document out of a series of hopefully different matrices, different webinars, different dialogues on how to strengthen transboundary water cooperation. The content of this toolkit are an introduction on what is data and information exchange, or the value of data and information exchange in transboundary waters. We provide some key concepts and definitions regarding to transboundary water cooperation, specifically linked to the principles of international environmental law, international water law. We emphasize on the importance of data and information exchange, provide some key provisions and the characteristics for this data and information exchange. We analyze approaches to manage data, and we present some case studies, and finally, some key recommendations. As part of the introduction of this toolkit, we start by saying that data and information are essential to guide governments, river basin organizations, international organizations in the effective management and governance of transboundary waters. This is the basis for transboundary water cooperation. The first obligation under transboundary water cooperation is the regular exchange of data and information. And with this toolkit, we are going a little bit further. We are going a step forward, and we say that this data and information is not only essential for governments or for river basin organizations or for diplomats, but actually the importance of this data and information is that it's accessible, that is open to the public, that is open to local communities, that is open to municipalities, that is open to the people who might be affected by the good or bad decisions made on these transboundary waters. And this perhaps to link with what Simon told earlier regarding the Sandoz accident. The cooperation that raised on the basis of this accident in Central Europe opened ways for collaboration, for cooperation between states. And we would like to promote that such a collaboration, that such exchange is available also for people, that is available for local communities, so they can also respond rapidly in the face of specific emergencies, specific accidents, of course, coordinated with the governmental agencies, but that mainly this information is available for people. Another key point in this introduction to this toolkit is that we mentioned that exchanging data and information has to be made in good faith. as this is one of the bases as well, the political will, the good faith in how countries are sharing data and information, this to reach informed agreements over shared waters, and overall an adequate understanding of the conditions, challenges, needs, interests, and priorities in transboundary river basins facilitates the development of management plans, agendas, policies, law, and agreements. Again, as previously it was mentioned, only what is known, only what is very well known can be managed. And this is the importance of understanding a basin. This is the importance of having available data to understand and to take good decisions in transboundary waters. Just to mention some of the key concepts and definitions included in this toolkit, we provided a series of key terms and principles that guide the water diplomacy, cooperation, equitable and reasonable utilization, the obligation not to cause significant harm, and the protection of ecosystems, in a way to guide the readers, to guide diplomats, to guide experts, to guide members of river basin organizations, and also the public in general, to understand what should be the principles that guide the management and governance of shared waters. We included different tables in this toolkit for people, for the readers to understand, to analyze what are the key concepts and principles that guide this data and information exchange. On the importance of data and information exchange, we mentioned that this is essential in order to prevent, to manage, and remediate any potential impacts from human activities, but also from the current challenges that we are facing, including climate change, plastic pollution, and here, because of the complexities, the complex scenarios that we see in transboundary river basins, the need for available data coming from not only from governments, but also from different stakeholders, including academia, including environmental organization, it is essential. And all of these complexities, this constellation of actors and this constellation of different inputs can provide better decision-making for these rivers, lakes, aquifers. And some of the challenges, of course, that you know that we're facing in terms of transboundary water cooperation are pollution, ineffective water management, obsolete water infrastructure, climate change, floods, and droughts. We are seeing in the last years how floods and droughts are affecting cities, are affecting infrastructure. Also, we saw just last year with the severe droughts in Central Europe as well, how it is affected navigation. And this is why the importance of having information on the forecast of meteorology, hydrology are very important to take decisions and also to protect people, to protect the economies, to protect local communities, to face these periods of drought. And the same when we are going to Central Asia, where we hope that this toolkit can be implemented. When we think about glaciers, for instance, how can we measure, how can we monitor the states of glaciers if they are slowly receding, and how to protect key infrastructure that is perhaps built along rivers. In order to understand more this importance of data and information exchange, the toolkit includes several tables with questions. For instance, what does readily available data and information mean? And also, what type of data and information should be exchanged? And also some other questions such as, what does regular exchange of information mean? Should this be every 1 month, every 2 months, every 6 months? We have tried to bring different reflections from different areas of the world for readers, for governments, for river basins organizations, to take the best approaches and to feed and to try to bring these best practices from different parts of the world. Let's remember, and this is very key, that data and information exchange is a process, it's permanent. It does not only occur when a country notifies another about the construction of a dam, for instance, or about a specific oil spill or a chemical accident. Data and information exchange should be continuous, and this needs to be done at different levels, from the state, diplomatic level, from the expert level, and also with communities, with people. In terms of the characteristics and key provisions that we suggest states or that we suggest river basin organizations to adopt, we start by saying that the basis for transboundary cooperation is the regular exchange of data and information. This is the first step towards broader dialogues and cooperation. And this brings me again to the experience in the Rhine River, in the same way as Simon mentioned what happened in the Sandoz accident. At IUCN, we had one meeting where colleagues from the Horn of Africa were at the International Commission for the Protection of the Rhine and asked delegates from Switzerland about why would they share information on the river, or why would they share the waters from the Rhine. And the delegates from Switzerland mentioned that it is not only that we are sharing water, but our people, Swiss people, work in Germany. German workers come and work in Switzerland. Our products can be exchanged, can be traded around the world thanks to the open navigation in Germany, France, the Netherlands, and also that by sharing water, by starting sharing information on water, other areas of cooperation can be achieved, economic, culturally, and also to find regional integration. Of course, data and information exchange can also ensure institutional coordination and promote transparency and trust. This is very key. What it was already mentioned, the key or the purpose of having this exchange of data and information is to build trust between states, that information, that any type of relevant data can be just shared between states openly, with trust, in good faith. In the toolkit, we included some key provisions that we suggest states to take into account when they draft treaties, when they negotiate agreements and protocols on transboundary water cooperation, with key ideas such as coordination of all water data collection and resource monitoring activities, to standardize data collection methods and procedures, to maintain up-to-date records of data received, and so on. All of these you will be able to find in the toolkit as part of the suggestions that we, in the basis of the experience of IUCN and OSCE in terms of transboundary water cooperation and environmental governance, have collected.
Yeah, Diego, let me
Yes.
remind you that you have only 2 more minutes.
Yes, sorry, apologies. Just to mention the types of data and information to be exchanged: hydrological, meteorological, ecological, water quantity and quality. All of this information, as it was correctly mentioned previously, it is already part of the whole international water law principles on how to which factors have to be taken into account for equitable and reasonable utilization of water. In this toolkit, we are promoting, or we are mentioning, how this data needs to be collected, in which periodicity, and also what needs to be observed and implemented. A key point on this is that, or a challenge that the countries face, is that sometimes this data is fragmented. States have different methods to collect data and to manage data. States need to ensure harmonious exchange of data and information. Just to go a little bit quicker on this, the enabling conditions. Data and information exchange can only be achieved if there is a good political will, if there is adequate institutional coordination, and of course, if the financial and technical capacities are in place. Also, this can only be achieved, or we can talk about effective exchange of data and information if there is transparency, accountability, and if this information is shared with the public. We include also in this toolkit the different stages of the management of data and information in transboundary waters. We include some tables on how this information needs to be collected. We discuss about what are these innovative approaches for data collection and monitoring looks like, and also something which is important, how these sensors, these drones, these images from satellites can be used and be accessible for the public, for the locals, for the people who are the ones who are going to be facing the consequences of good and bad decisions in transboundary waters. Just to conclude, public participation, access to information, and access to justice should be key in the sense of exchanging data and information exchange. It's not only sharing information between states, but also making this information available to the public. We have in the toolkit as well different innovative technologies, very well detailed on how this data and information is exchanged, that you will be able to see in the toolkit. And finally, some case studies that on the Sava, on the Dniester, the Aral Sea, the Mekong, the Rhine, and the Danube, where we provide already where we show what have been the best practices from these river basins in terms of managing data and information exchange, what they have adopted in their agreements, what are the specific provisions and institutional framework in place. With this, the key recommendations I have already mentioned, some of them. Innovation is key to have adequate financial resources, and the key of this is to facilitate dialogues for joint management of data. Thank you very much for this fast presentation, and if there are questions, I will be very happy to respond. And now back to you, Saul. Thank you. It's muted. It's muted.
So let us proceed to the panel discussion, and we have about 15 minutes left. So I'll try to maybe focus on a specific question that for the panel members. But let me first introduce the three members of our panel who are our implementing partners, collaborators, and colleagues, ongoing and longstanding colleagues. Dr. Christian Breton from Geneva Water Hub is a UNESCO chair on hydropolitics at the University of Geneva. He directs the research education component of the Geneva Water Hub, and his work focuses on environmental policy and governance, and in water in particular. It focuses on multi-level governance issues. Mr. Kerry Schneider, senior program manager from the Stockholm International Water Institute. He's a program manager for the Shared Water Partnership at the CIWI. And he is also one of our major supporters for development of our Women in Water Management Network and Women in Water Diplomacy Network, which he will maybe talk more about. And then finally, Ms. Cholpona Itahunova, our regional coordinator for Central Asian Youth for Water. She is an international climate protection fellow with the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation from the Kyrgyz Republic, and leads Central Asian Youth for Water in her role as a regional coordinator. She is also a founding member of the Women in Water Management Network in Central Asia and Afghanistan, which was developed by OSCE, CIWI, in partnership with CAREC, Central Asian Regional Environmental Center. So let us proceed maybe with a question for our panel members. Please maybe briefly reflect on your experience in advancing digitalization in water sector and relevant applications. What would you briefly highlight as main challenges and opportunities? and where do you see the most useful application of the presented toolkit? So maybe we can start with Dr. Brito. Dear Christian.
Thank you. So thank you for the invitation for today's session. It's always a pleasure to collaborate with OSCE. And talking about digital platforms with OSCE, we notably had the chance to develop the e-learning program on water diplomacy and integration of water norms in peace building, which is freely available online on the OSCE website. So I invite all you to have a look. At the Geneva Water, we focus on digitalization in the water sector in the specific region, actually, of the Sahel in Western Africa, where we collaborate on the topic with state actors, river basin organization, the OMVS, with the Polo Dakar, and also with international organization. And so in that frame, we do not see digitalization as a mean for itself, but rather as a relevant tool to address and facilitate cooperation, and to also deal with challenges across different levels, from local to transboundary, and that has been mentioned by Diego as well, but also between different sectors of activity. And I think this is also a key dimension because a lot of those sectors of activity are key actors for data production and data sharing. And here, indeed, I believe that digitalization brings indeed a multitude of opportunities and challenges. And what I will do is that I will mainly focus on three dimensions that we have modestly observed so far in the field. But I believe that those observations that are also partly addressed by the toolkit are relevant beyond our specific region of interest. The first observation, and this goes really into the very heart of digitalization, I think we should remind that digitalization remains limited in many regions of the world, actually. In the Sahel, this means that to deal with water challenges, actors do not necessarily have an easy access to agencies, government bodies, or RBOs that are usually located in the capital cities. And therefore here, digitalization can certainly help to support local actors more rapidly, to reinforce the connection between the relevant actors and to facilitate maybe more, let's say, decentralized governance systems, allowing to move more towards more flexible, innovative, and maybe more solution-oriented arrangements. Then the second observation we made is that, and this is linked to this first dimension, is that digitalization can certainly contribute to facilitate reinforce transversality across different sectors of activity, but also across different types of knowledge. And by doing so, it can reinforce the dialogue between the water sector and beyond, including critical dimensions related to land use or urban planning. And here, there's certainly a lot of work that remains to be done on how notably to harmonize data sets across sectors and across boundaries, and also on how to ensure interoperability of digital platforms that have been often built, let's say, iteratively with separate dynamics and also in different times. And the last observation I'd like to do, and as mentioned earlier, it seems to us that digitalization can certainly contribute to facilitate bottom-up dynamics. And Diego talked about those local concerns that have also to be made visible. But for this to happen, we will need transparency for data sets that often relate to critical sectors, such as water, climate, security, so highly touchy, but also that relate to use types that do not want necessarily to share existing data. And therefore, there's here a bit of an egg and chicken story, where digitalization can clearly contribute to such transparency to happen, but also where guidelines and political choices behind digitalization need transparency as a compass, as really at the heart of decision making. So this is my perspective on the opportunities and challenges. Back to you, Saul.
Thank you, dear Christian. Actually, I wanted to bring everybody's attention to the link that is posted in the chat to the e-learning that Dr. Brito just mentioned, because actually, I think we would like also to develop an e-learning, based on the toolkit, on the presented toolkit, which I think will be a good opportunity to collaborate for all of us again. So with that, maybe I will pass the screen to Carrie. Dear Carrie, please, since we're collaborating across so many issues, could you provide, please, your reflections to the questions? Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Saule. And let me say thank you to all of the co-organizers and contributors to this event. It's a real pleasure to be here, and let me say thank you to everybody who's joining us from Stockholm at the World Water Week. For those of you who aren't able to join us, we miss you. As Saule mentioned, I am managing a program called the Shared Waters Partnership at CIWI. And the point of the program is to provide support transboundary water cooperation in regions where water is or could become a source of conflict. And while the SWP often provides targeted support to trigger dialogue and joint learning, to overcome a specific political or technical barrier to water cooperation, many of the barriers to effective regional cooperation require a sustained engagement over time. Supporting sustained communities of practice over time can enable alternative spaces for informal dialogue, to build trust, share knowledge, improve communications and cooperation, to identify challenges before they become risks, and to contribute to a positive enabling environment required for transboundary cooperation. One of our key projects under the Shared Waters Partnership is the Women in Water Diplomacy Network. And I'm super thrilled to see a number of the members of this network online. So let me say a special hello and thank you for joining to them. In 2021, CIWI, in partnership with OSCE and the Regional Environmental Center for Central Asia, also known as CAREC, began supporting a group of women from all 5 Central Asian countries and Afghanistan who are water managers and water diplomats. Some have a foreign policy focus, some have a more technical focus, but the ambition is to bring countries together and facilitate dialogue and share experiences that can enrich informal networks and to strengthen regional understanding of the challenges that are faced by countries within Central Asia. This network was launched in 2021, right during the heart of the COVID pandemic, which prevented travel, which prevented meeting each other in person, of course. And at this time, there was a common sentiment that it was difficult to start new projects or build new relationships, that diplomacy, especially around water issues, was simply too sensitive to be had online. And one of the proudest moments of my time spent at CIWI has been watching the evolution of this network and watching the participants defy these kinds of conventions, sort of this quitting mentality almost that the COVID pandemic brought everything to a halt and we just had to wait. It's not easy, of course, to conduct meetings online, particularly when issues are sensitive. But this network did it, and CAREC and OSCE as partners have contributed to developing a series of conclusions about facilitating processes and conducting these types of dialogue on virtual platforms. A number of these conclusions have been published in a paper by some of my colleagues at CIWI and the Environmental Law Institute. I won't go through the entire paper, of course, here in the 2 minutes that are left, but the paper is called Bridging the Digital Divide, Inclusive Processes Facilitated Remotely. And I will just point out a few of the lessons learned that we've developed over the years in supporting this network of women water managers in Central Asia and Afghanistan. The first, and this may seem intuitive because it is very similar to arranging a face-to-face meeting, but you need to identify who needs to be sitting at the table and you have to get them there. So oftentimes we are taking for granted the fact that everybody could just join the meeting from their phone. You could be sitting on a bus and join the meeting. The connectivity will enable any
Yeah,
level
Gary,
of
we still have to leave the room for Chilpon to say a few words. We have been reminded that we have only 4 minutes left.
Okay. Well, I think the important thing here is in facilitating these dialogues is to make sure that there is connectivity for everybody, to create, make sure that everybody has the ability to join, whether that's as a facilitator providing transportation to a venue where they could join, or to purchase internet vouchers. Maybe there's an opportunity if somebody can't join from home to go to a hotel or something like that. There's a number of things that facilitators can and should be doing to ensure that the right people are at the table. And to give Chopin, because she certainly deserves some time here, let me just recommend that everybody check out this article, because the Women in Water Diplomacy Network lessons learned not only stand out as an example, but I think and is something they should all be proud of. But I think there are lessons learned from this network that are directly applicable to everybody online watching here today. So please take a moment. Let me thank once again our colleagues at OSCE and CAREC, and all the participants of the Women Water Managers Network of Central Asia and Afghanistan. Sorry, we don't have more time to go through the details because it's a fantastic project.
Thank you, Gary. This only reminds us that we need more time for this discussion. So Chilpon, let me pass the screen to you, but let me also say that Letizia, please post the webpage, the project webpage, where we will post also ultimately the publication of the toolkit, so that everybody could have it. And if we run out of time, please visit that webpage for more materials where you can see the full project information as well. And please feel free to get in contact with us directly. Chilpon, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Sauli, and good morning, everyone. Yes, I'll try in a minute. But yeah, basically, I think I can share mostly about my experience as a user, as rather a user of diverse digital resources. Yes, and actually one of them is the e-learning course, the joint course developed by the Geneva Water Hub and the OSCE on the water diplomacy and peace building. And actually, yeah, for me, I mean, it was a quite fruitful experience because I have no formal education in the water sector, but I have been involved in the sector for quite some time, and I have been on this, you know, as a representative on the side of youth and women, you know, like across this multiple levels of water governance for some time now, you know. And so, yeah, basically such tools as the e-learning, or for example, when like I was studying partnerships and collaboration in the water sector, like over the past year, different tools and such as different water knowledge platforms. I don't know, the transboundary freshwater diplomacy database of the Oregon State, or the diverse toolkits by GWP. So all of such products actually. I mean, they were there for people as me, you know, for young professionals, for the practitioners in the field, for those who research something in the water sector, you know, not just like as the place where data is there, yes, but also like where you could really use diverse tools, methodologies, and actually you could use them as creatively as possible, you know. And so on the challenges side, I believe that as many challenges are out there in the water sector, given the complex nature of the sector itself, there are also like this many opportunities. And actually, I mean, while there are issues not only with the data availability, access to it, and exchange of information in the water sector, but also, for example, like we have water education issues, yes. And for example, just how I was on the user side using these diverse digital tools and knowledge platforms for various reasons, I think is also just one example of how digitalization, first of all, but then and all the advantages it brings and all the products it brings actually help to address not only cooperation, not only the data exchange, yes, but also as a side effect, let's say, some other very important issues in the sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Chilpon. We are running out of time, but let me again highlight, please visit our webpage. We will continue these discussions. We can also make the PowerPoint presentation available to the participants. So, and we will maybe post also that on the website so that to make it available for the participants. So please get in touch with us. And we will also have, we will organize other events where digitalization in the water sector will be featured. We have plans to continue this dialogue at the next Stockholm World Water Week, together with our Women in Water Management Network, where we are also collaborating across all the partners who are participating today, and with the Women in the Nile Network. So we look forward to it. Thank you for joining this early in the morning. We had